Hey everybody, this is Chuck Rowe from Midwest Studies Group. Thanks for joining again for another webinar. Today we're going to talk about the importance of having passion for a nonprofit you work with. Today joining me is Tom Colvin from the Animal Rescue League. Thanks for joining, Tom.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Now to kick things off for a second, maybe you could tell us, what does Animal Rescue League do?
So it's the Animal Rescue League of Iowa, and we're located in Des Moines. By virtue of our name, there's some of the programs we provide that go statewide, but we're primarily serving Central Iowa. As you can imagine, with an Animal Rescue League, we receive animals that people no longer can care for, and we do quite a bit with lost pets, stray pets. We have a contract with the city of Des Moines that we provide all of the animal control services. We're calling it animal services now instead of animal control, because we're kind of changing up the whole image of what animal control used to be. And that goes to the programs that we provide. We have community outreach, which is comprised of offering low cost or no cost spaying and neutering, vaccination clinics, food pantry for pets, grooming primarily for elderly pet owners that can't get to the groomer, a number of different things. We have a domestic violence crisis fostering program for people dealing with fire, flood, or domestic violence. We'll find temporary homes for their pets, so that they can take care of their situation and get their pets back. So the list goes on and on and on, Chuck, but the thrust of it is, with the Animal Rescue League, is trying to solve the problems of pet homelessness, abuse, and neglect, however we can do that.
Well, obviously you have a passion for it. Even in the corner of the screen, I see a cat laying on the floor, looking comfortable in the bed there. Makes me want to put a bed in my office too. But so, because you've worked with in the animal rescue arena for years. Maybe you could tell me what was that journey for you as far as your work history?
Well, it's kind of an interesting one as it comes to our what we've gotten to with those programs I had just mentioned, Chuck. I started working for a veterinarian in Waterloo, up in your area, in 1969. So I've kind of dated myself right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for the veterinarian for about 5 years. And during that time, basically, we helped out actually the Humane Society. But during that whole time, I and a lot of other people just never went out there. It was out by the airport. We didn't really, interact with the Humane Society a lot. They brought the dogs to us and cats to us that we would fix up and, treat and one thing and another. But that was about it. So when I left working for the veterinarian and started attending UNI, I needed a part-time job, so I went out to the Humane Society with my background, and I tell you, it was like hitting a wall. It was just kind of it just hit me when I got into there, and it was a facility that's a fraction of the size of the facility I've got now. We were handling about 12,000 animals a year that were coming through that little facility, and all of the problems that came to light of overpopulation. Very few people back in 1974 really spayed or neutered their pets, or it was kind of thought of that if you wanted a really good dog, you would go to a breeder. If you didn't really, wanted a cheap pet, you would go out to the Humane Society. It wasn't what we have now, that it's cool to adopt and rescue and all those types of things. So the attitudes were just completely different back then. And I'll tell you, that's where my passion and spark grew. Things had to be different, and it took a very long time for them to become different.
So do you even remember as a kid, were you just always a lover of animals then? Is that how you got into the vet, working for the vet to begin with?
Yeah, typical Iowa guy. I was out, working on the farm, as a young kid. And, I was very fortunate actually in Cedar Falls. I grew up in Cedar Falls on the edge of town, and right across from us, right in our same neighborhood, was a veterinary clinic. And I just found myself always kind of drifting over there, be around the animals. They had some ponies over there, and I could go in the veterinary clinic when I was young, like 10, 12 years old. I remember that the deal was, you could come in and watch surgery at the veterinary clinic if you promised not to throw up or pass out. And so I guess I met that criteria. And so they kind of let me hang out at the veterinary clinic, in and around the veterinary clinic. But yeah, that definitely that spark was there.
Well, something that you mentioned was that the passion and where you started out from the beginning helped to lead you on that journey to where you are now at the Animal Rescue League. Tell me about that connection that you're talking about.
So all of those things, all of those experience back in the day, have all kind of been the building blocks and the chess pieces, so to speak, of getting to where the Animal Rescue League and myself are at today. It was all watching the transition and participating in the transition of the pet owning public and general society is how they viewed pets. Like I said before, it was, people loved their pets. They loved them in a different way. They weren't sharing their beds as often, in the 70s or the 80s as they are today. Very often they weren't even sharing their homes. Yeah, you had a dog, but it was out in the backyard or in a kennel or something like that. And all of those things have changed, and the standards of care on animals in general have raised up over the period of time. So that keeps sparking the passion. What else can we do? What else can we do? And now it really has come to the point that, yes, we're there for the animals, but we're there for the pet owners as well. The whole human-animal bond, we found the value in the human-animal bond, and when we see it, we try to preserve it. And how can we do that? With those community outreach programs I had mentioned, and any number of other ways that we help people have their pets, keep their pets.
Well, I love the comment that you said of what else can we do? Because when you have a passion for a nonprofit that you work for, you don't feel like you have a job. You feel like you're having fun each day, and you feel like, what else can I do to help grow this organization? So when you think about some of the future of what you're doing right now, what are some of the ideas that you have in place for maybe 3, 4, or 5 years from now?
So I'm in a really exciting place, Chuck, and I'm so glad to say that after, do the math here, 46 years. I am in really an exciting place. I have been able to put together a team of directors that report to me, very talented people that are now going through all of these different divisions that they oversee, and we can radically change them up and meld. So my work is to meld those 7 departments together into the organization. So that's the exciting part for me now. From now on, it's going to be a matter of getting those directors all working for the total organization. So what that means is, like our animal control, I have a director of animal services. So that person is an expert in his field, and he is able to come up with a roadmap of where we need to be. Now, that's a lot of heavy hauling, because what it means is, more city funding and different thinking within the city government end. But that's the welcome challenge, is how do you shape that conversation with city officials while we change things for the better, just different ways of thinking. My development director is an expert in her field, and she is taking a look at why people give and why would they give to the Animal Rescue League, and what other opportunities would we have to partner with other nonprofit organizations to say to the donor, we're not so siloed that when we're dealing with homelessness of people and homelessness of animals, that we can't team up with those folks and see if the donor can have a bigger effect and not a duplication of effect on things that they're passionate about and generous about. So is that making sense?
Yeah,
It's all
it
coming
does
together?
exactly. And,
Yeah.
and the thing that I love about this is that you're exactly the reason why Midwest Studies Group exists, is because we have a firm belief that between staff and donors and board members and potential donors and any other supporters, that there needs to be a connection between the mission, the passion, and with this other group of those people. And how do you get that excitement, the transfer from one to the next? And so, so what your development director is wanting to do is exactly the stuff that we excel in, what we like doing, and why we do what we do at Midwest Studies Group. So I can imagine a nonprofit director saying to you, "Okay, Tom, that sounds so perfect world. We hire directors all the time. And when we hire directors, we just can't get them to buy into the mission or buy into what we're doing. And so what you're saying sounds great, but I don't know. I don't know. So maybe you could give like maybe a quick, from your experience, what's a quick tip or two that you have for those people that are trying to get that mission and that passion to be passed down from the director to the rest of the staff?
You know, you hit me at a really good time because I've been doing director reviews right now. So what I've been doing on my reviews of the directors is I ask them, where do you want to be in 6 months and a year or a year? And so they describe their area and they describe their job in a fashion of what it would look like in the future. And then I talk about my experience with working with them on how that lets them attain that. And so very often it brings up strengths and weaknesses during the conversation that's going to actually help them get to where they want to be. My tip is go to where they are. Go to where your high level staff is. And it doesn't always mean that they have to work on their weaknesses, of course. But you can adjust. It's not one size fits all, particularly when you got a director team. So you go to where they are on their strengths and weaknesses, and there is a workaround with some of those weaknesses that can become strengths, or is just not as critical as we thought it was when we walked into the conversation. So it's critical that we don't have a one size fits all. You have an overriding description in your mind of where you want the organization to be, and you take these strong people and you plug them in there, weaknesses and strengths both, and by the time it all becomes shaped, it'll work. It works.
Well, sounds
That's
like
pretty ethereal, so I'm not sure. If you got a follow-up question to me on that, I welcome it.
so we might have to do another session on that. We might have to do another session. So mark your calendar for a couple of weeks. We'll have to visit again.
Okay.
But it sounds like you have a development director that's doing a great job then trying to connect people with mission and again trying to push that passion on to other people. A lot of folks aren't as lucky as you, though. They don't have a development director that's maybe ready for that or primed for that, or even board members that could or should help raise money as well. A phrase, it's kind of an old adage that's been used, is that, if you truly believe in your mission, you shouldn't be embarrassed to try to sell anything. And it's
Absolutely.
kind of an old adage.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so when you think of your mission and when you think of maybe your development director, what comes to your mind with that quote when you want to encourage other nonprofits to maybe move forward with their fundraising who might be a little nervous?
Yeah, so many nonprofits have a very emotional basis on what they do, and we certainly do. I mean, it is the, Sarah McLachlan kind of songs around neglected animals, and, it definitely is there. So, the point of that is you have to balance those sad stories with the positive. So yes, you start off with that sad, neglected dog, but through their help, they bring it to this nice, healthy pet that's now in a loved home. Okay. Now, what you're talking about is so many people, because of the raw passion that comes out of our type of work. I have a lot of people that talk to me, whether I'm at the Animal Rescue League, the grocery store, or any place else, talk to me about how can they help. And very often, donors thank me for doing the work that we do, and they having the opportunity to make our work possible. So it's merely a matter of joining up the two. Here's the passion, here's the need, here's your opportunity to help us. So we never sell anything. We are just giving people opportunities to do what we do when they can't physically do that work because of the emotional grip that it has on their heart. And so it's, I've met the most wonderful people through this work that are, and it doesn't matter if I'm talking about $1 million gifts or I'm talking about $4 gifts. I value those $4 gifts. I sign every one of my thank yous that comes for every donation that comes to the Animal Rescue League. And those $4 gifts that come in with a little note get a special note from me because they are so critical. It's giving from the heart. And just like that bond, that human-animal bond, that donor cause bond is equally, when you find it, you got to thank it.
Well, I love how you talked about how you have to take the stories and connect it with the future. This is the bad thing that happened, but here's the good thing that comes out of it. I love that you talked about that. And I think that's one of the key elements to why so many people get scared to ask for money, because they don't think about that. And they think, oh, gosh, I don't want to ask my friend for money, or I don't want to, or maybe a development director, oh, I hate to pick up that phone and actually talk to somebody. But when you use that formula you just said, you can't really go wrong. There's nothing to be embarrassed about asking for money when you have a story like that.
I used to be, Chuck. I used to be afraid to ask for money because that's what I thought I was doing, dig in your pocket and give me some change kind of a thing. And that was just wrong thinking. That was wrong thinking for the donor as much as it was wrong thinking for me and my organization.
Well, here's another thing that people get nervous about that is kind of an offshoot of fundraising, and that's going to be planned giving. What are your thoughts on how planned giving plays a role in the future of what you're trying to do?
I think most people want to leave a legacy. They want to be remembered somehow, number one. And two, they want to leave something usually that's going to have a lasting impact. So the opportunity for you to talk to people about planned giving, and our need is going to be here even after people pass away. That's just simple, and it's for all nonprofits. The need is going to be there past that person that's been giving you that monthly gift or that yearly gift. And so this is that opportunity. The other thing that I think people, we as fundraisers or planned gift discussers talk about that I think is kind of lost is, that we're not talking about, you don't have to have a huge estate to talk about planned giving. You may want to have a small annuity. You may want to pay for a life insurance and make that nonprofit the beneficiary. All of that can get recognized past the person, when the person passes. And we are fortunate to have a foundation, and that foundation makes that gift, no matter what size, if it's going into that foundation, continue on perpetually because of the way that that's handled.
Well, and I think that's perfectly noted, and I think that for planned giving, I'd like to hear a story, whether it be, well, it doesn't have to be planned giving. It could just be any sort of gift that you ever had. Can you give a quick story of how you were able to transfer your passion to maybe a donor or a board member?
So it happens so often. I'm challenged. I'm challenged by hearing, talking about a single one, but very often it's a matter of letting people talk about their passion. And, so one, many come to mind, but one of them comes to mind in that, she was a very, very quiet individual that loved a dog. Her and her daughter had a dog, and they just dearly loved this dog. But they also loved the idea of what it is that we did. Even though when we first met, she wasn't too sure what we did at the animal rescue aid. So it was just a matter of meeting with her. I met with her probably 3 times. And each time she would say, "What is your vision? What do you want to do? And how would you do it?" So she wanted to take that journey with me, as I talked about. Wouldn't it be great if we had fewer animals at the Animal Rescue League and more animals supported in their home? Wouldn't that be a wonderful type of thing? And so she took that journey with me, and she never thought about these things before. And, it ended up an extremely large gift. But it was mostly just from the standpoint that she wanted to take the walk with me, okay? Envision it in her mind of what this would look like. And so it's a matter of I think we get bound up with, gosh, we've got to have all of these graphs and charts, and we've got to show, and some people want that. I don't disagree. Some people say, I want to know exactly where all this money is going to go, and that's fine too. But when you're talking about a nonprofit, nonprofits really function under what they can accomplish and what they can accomplish with people. So they really need to hear the passion and the vision. So if a board, you mentioned boards before, my board is very focused on what it is they can accomplish. They see the dream, we walk the dream together, and I have a strong number of very strong financiers on my board that keep me grounded. So I can float to the clouds, and they keep me grounded. And the combination of the two really does create a journey that you can take to people when you're talking to them about planned giving or giving it at all.
Well, I think we might be, possibly, me and you could be twins separated from birth. It's possible. Chances might be slim, but it's possible because, I have the same exact mindset, and it's something that we talk about at Midwest Studies Group with our clients, is that we believe that fanciness, and it's a big thing that we push with our folks, is that we believe that fanciness does not sell mission. It's going to be hard work and relationships that sell mission. And so you can have the fanciest videos, the fanciest brochures, the nicest looking graphs, and that unto itself does not sell mission. And I think a lot of people that are raising money think that. I make this fancy brochure and throw it out there on the table, all of a sudden money's going to come raining in. But I think we're along the same lines where it doesn't work that way. It would be nice though.
Yeah, it would.
So
I would hate it, quite frankly, because I'd rather just talk to somebody about the passion.
well, one of the things that we also tell people is that when you love something, when you have a passion for something, you go the extra mile for it. And a lot of people think that they give 110% no matter what they do. But then when we talk it over with folks, they say, "Oh, you're right. I do to give 110% over the things that I maybe love a little bit more." So in saying that, could you give us, because I can only assume that an animal shelter could be a crazy place at times when you have enough things going on. What is like the craziest, nuttiest thing that you ever had to do over your years that maybe some crazy thing happened that you had to go above and beyond because you simply loved what you did?
Well, I always say that the number one reason why I do love this work is over 46 years, I have never had 2 days that were the same. And that is an honest truth. There has been no, and in fact, I was just meeting with my director of veterinary services, and he was, sharing today how no day, you can't plan any day at an animal shelter that's going to be, predictable. So that's another tough thing for me to pull one out of. I do remember coming in one day, and they had contacted me that a law enforcement agency had actually come across a tiger, and they had temporarily placed that tiger with somebody that had a barn, but it became pretty clear that that wasn't going to work for a long period of time. They had seized it during a drug raid, actually. So this tiger came to the Animal Rescue League, and fortunately, it was a young tiger, but if you've ever been around big cats, you realize that even a 6-month-old Bengal tiger is a lot to handle. So we ended up having to figure out, what are we going to do with this tiger? And ended up finding a sanctuary that it could go to, but the tiger had to be neutered before it left, just like a cat. So our veterinarian, same one that I was talking to, said, well, let me read up on it and make sure the anesthesia is correct and all of that type of thing. So we went ahead and neutered this tiger, and then we got the necessary transport documentation all pulled together. It was going to go to Texas. And so we basically then had to engage one of our other staff people to load up this tiger in the back of a van and drive it straight through to Texas, and stay in contact with us and make sure that everything was okay. And everything did go okay. He had a passenger along, and they were kind of nervous going through small towns when they stopped at a stop sign, and every once in a while the tiger would let out a little bit of a roar. And so they were kind of worried what the people next to them might be thinking, but they got down there. So that's one example of something
that is a great not how you know what. I know a lot of nonprofit directors. Not one has ever told me they got a tiger from a drug raid before. So
a tiger story, yeah.
Yeah. So, gosh, I couldn't imagine having to be the person that sat in the back with that tiger of the van. I don't know how you talk that person into that job. But.
Well, they were in the passenger seat, and the tiger was safely in the back. But still, they were just hoping that everything went smooth.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed our time today. Learned a lot from you in regards to passion and passing that passion to other people. Before I let you go, is there any other words of wisdom you want to pass on to anybody in regards to the topic of passion, or even anything that has to do with animal rescue?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think just kind of a parting shot here is that nonprofits, we're fortunate in Iowa and in the Midwest to just have wonderful nonprofits. We've got a bunch of nonprofits down around the Des Moines area, and we meet periodically, fairly regularly, actually. And the great thing that I see about it is nobody in the nonprofit world is competitive. We are competitive. Yes, we are competitive, that we like to do better than the other nonprofits, but we are never throwing ourselves in front of those other nonprofits. We work together. And how can we work together more and more and more? Because the donor has become much more astute, and that's all in to our benefit, actually. So that partnership with other organizations don't have to be like-minded, not like-missioned, but in a way, just nonprofits, like I said, the homeless, pets, and people, there's opportunities there. So searching out those opportunities to work together is going to really help advance nonprofits and their professionalism and the way we're viewed going forward.
Well, I love the collaborative mindset that you have there, and I think that is the key. So that's great thoughts. And I remember when when I ran a youth center, we had an animal shelter that would bring like dogs over, and the kids got the opportunity to read to the dogs, and it was a comfortable thing for the kids. So so I see exactly what you're talking about. Next time I'm going to see if there's a tiger available. That could be more exciting for the kids. Who knows? Hey, if folks want to learn more about you or the Animal Rescue League, where can they go to?
So our website, www.arl-iowa, spelled out, .org. Hop on there. That can tell you a lot about us. My email is tcolvin, T as in Tom, Colvin. I think you got it at arl-iowa.org. And can they see that? Can your viewers see that it's in my left?
Not right now, but we could maybe put it up later. Yep.
Yeah. So feel free to reach out to me. Love to connect up, and yeah, and find me on LinkedIn.
Well, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
You bet, Chuck. I appreciate it.
And to everyone else that's going to be joining and watching this, thank you so much. Chuck Rowe from Midwest Studies Group. Catch you next time.